Michelle here. We're back for some more creepypasta. So today we are reading I Got Lost in a Retail Store When I Was 9 and Only Remembered What Happened Recently, written by Reggie Gecki. It says estimate reading is 9 minutes. I'll try not to read super fast, but I also really hope that this saves or I'm going to be very pissed. So yeah, let's get right into it. I'm sure many of you who were kids in the 2000s, like I was, had and perhaps still have a certain fondness of stores like Party City, Spirit of Halloween, iParty, Toys R Us, and other similar retailers. There was always a sense of excitement to having your parents take you to one of them, wandering around and looking at all the colorful products that you knew deep down you were unlikely to get your hands on, but which still felt somehow in reach if you could simply badger your parents enough to concede. Even if you walked away empty-handed, there's always a simple pleasure of existing in these spaces. When you're a kid, these stores feel enormous, like places you can get lost in. My parents kept a pretty tight leash on me whenever we'd go into large retail and department stores like Ocean State Jobs Lot or Walmart, but when it came to places like Spirit or Party City, I was free to roam since they weren't very big. They were big to me, though, sprawling even. I always felt like there were these little nooks that I could slip into, sections in the corners that somehow felt separate from the rest of the store, usually too devoid of many other customers. A lot of the time, they were in the equivalent of the bargain bin, not really the sorts of goods most people shopping would care for. To a kid who didn't have any notion of purchasing things for himself, though, they were exciting just because they were there. It gave me a real sense of adventure and discovery, like these stores somehow went on forever. Then, there's this local party store we had. The town I grew up in was sort of isolated, so there wasn't much competition from the bigger retailer chains. Usually we had to go to a much bigger town a few miles away for the bigger chain stores. The place was nice, though. It was called Marty's Party Goods. Marty's was a small place, a bit smaller than most other stores like it. It was tucked away in what I think was supposed to be a strip mall. It was pretty sad, though, consisting of only 5 or so spaces, and about half of them being closed and or abandoned at any given time. Marty's was the only one that stuck around, so 99% of the business the place got was for Marty's. My father was the main breadwinner for the family, and so most days off from school and summer vacations, I'd mostly be me and my mother since I didn't hang out with my friends outside of school very much. No particular reason, really, just tended not to think of it beyond birthday parties and other events. As a result, we didn't have much to do. My mom would bring me to Marty's to kill an hour or two, and we rarely left having bought something. I just enjoyed exploring a lot, and she sometimes browsed what they had. At some point, however, I think it was 2008 or 2009, I developed this petrifying fear of the place. My parents tell me that around the end of the decade, something happened where I just refused to step foot in the place. My mother told me that it had been a while we were shopping there for my Halloween costume, since it was October and Marty's had, like most other party stores, gotten appropriately dressed up and stocked for the approaching holiday. She said that I'd gotten lost, and when she found me again, I was crying and begging her to go home, unable to explain what it had happened while I was wandering that made me so afraid. The fact that I've ever gotten so lost in the first place was strange given the store's size. Children have a knack for getting lost in just about any store when there could be any distance between them and their guardians, but it couldn't have been just that. After all, it wouldn't have even taken 5 minutes of idly walk around and calling out for my mom to have heard me or for me to have found my mom. She told me she couldn't find me for about 20. She found me right when she was starting to worry that I'd gone outside. I'd always found it strange that I couldn't remember when this happened. You'd think that such a big event, at least for being a small child, would have been stuck in my brain. If nothing else, as something half remembered, but for years it was just a story my mother told me about sometimes. We never did go back to Marty's after that. In retrospect, I think a lot of my memories of Spirit Halloween were traveling to the next town over due to our Halloween shopping after I grew too scared to go back. Something had always bothered me about this story, beyond my lack of memory of it. What could have possibly happened for me to be that scared of a simple party store? How had I gone missing for nearly half an hour? I didn't think about it often. It usually popped in my mind every now and again, and I wondered about it for a few minutes before something distracted me and I forgot all about it again. It was like that for a long time, well, into my college years. That was until recently. I had just finished my second year at college and decided to head back to my hometown for a week to unwind after a joint stress of finals and work, and to see my parents again since I had it since Christmas. In December, I hadn't been back for a long enough to do much nostalgia sightseeing, but something that had surprised me on my drive to my childhood home was that Marty's was still in business. It was maybe a little worse for wear, with the sign out front being kind of faded, chipped, and peeling in a few places, but it was otherwise as I remember it. Coming back this time, I definitely wanted to do more sightseeing, and Marty's was high on my list. Not a very exciting list, but it was a very exciting, and it wasn't a very exciting town. I ended up going inside on my second day of the trip. Inside, it was arranged a bit differently from how I remembered, but I had been since I was in the fourth grade, so that was to be expected. I still didn't see what could possibly frighten me so badly when I was younger, but then I headed a bit deeper in, and I saw it. There was this one area at the slightly lower elevation than the rest of the place with a little ramp leading down to it. It was small, a room about a quarter size of the rest of the place, much paler in hue than the other parts of the store. Most of Marty's had the slightly yellowish paint, and I guess it gave it kind of a festive feel, maybe. But the walls in there were eggshell white. Even the fluorescent lights in the ceiling seemed harsher somehow. The contents of the room itself were unremarkable, really. There are two rows of clothing racks on either side, spanning nearly the entire length, with some space on both ends to move around them, and hanging from them were costumes. Each one vacuum-sealed clear plastic bags. There was some kind of bargain bin area for cheap costumes from the look of it. Just staring at this part of the store, however, I suddenly felt this tightening in my chest, like someone was about to give me terrible news and I could somehow sense their impending arrival. I couldn't begin to explain why, and then I remembered the story. Me missing for 20 minutes and my mother finding me in a state of inconsolable terror. That was when it came back to me. Not all at once, but I could see in my mind's eye standing there in that corner of the store, which felt so much bigger than it actually was. Yes, me and my mother were in there for our usual Halloween shopping, and I think I had been drawn to this part of the store I'd never given so much thought about before. Or maybe I had, but this time it was different. I could recall myself wandering inside, but nobody but me in this little area, and for some reason I could have sworn it was much bigger than the area I was looking at now. Instead of a small room, it was a big hallway, and the costume racks were arranged like aisles. It was a lot like being in one of those employees-only storage areas, and maybe that was a part of appeal for me, and thus normally forbidden part of most stores was open to me, empty enough for people to feel special somehow. But as I kept exploring, I eventually realized that I didn't know where the way back to the rest of the store was. That must have been when I started calling out to my mom, but I was too far away for her to hear me. I was starting to remember more of it too, or at least details were coming to me which I felt pretty sure of, but not fully. At some point I had reached the back in which was lined with even more racks along the wall. I couldn't remember any specifics though, just a blur of nebulous outfits encased in those plastic seals. I had to step outside at this point, beginning to feel a bit dizzy, like too much was coming back to me all at once and I needed some fresh air to help process it. The memory continued in more details, and I could see some of the costumes had fallen from their hangers, a few of them spilling out of their bags. I stepped over these piles, continuing the search for an exit. I tried hugging the wall and moving along it to find the exit, but it just kept going on and on and on, and I eventually gave up on it back to wandering. According to my mother, it was just 20 minutes, but in steadily blossoming memory, it felt so much longer, like I had been stuck there for hours, a full day even. There was even something else, too. Something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up as it returned to me with everything else. I wasn't alone in that impossible area. At some point, I developed a strong feeling that there was something else in there with me. An adult to hopefully lead me back out to would have been nice, but it wasn't that. It felt like whoever it was, they knew I was there and had been watching me for a while. Maybe not the whole time, but at some point they become aware of me. Or it, if I'm being honest with myself. I know it sounds silly, but this part feels so vivid to me even now I have a hard time waving it away. I think I saw it too. While trying to find a way out, I could hear the shuffling noise just beyond one of the aisles I was standing next to. There was another one of those piles. This one was more like a heap, except it was moving slightly. The heap. It looked a bit when you wade through piles of autumn leaves that reach up past your ankles. A few masks and other accessories being shoved aside. I couldn't see feet though, but I saw something else. I saw an eye staring back at me through one of the gaps between the hanging costumes. It wasn't a human eye though, nor the eye was some terrible monster, but instead the fake eye of a rubber mask. I don't remember exactly what mask it was. It looked like some kind of reptilian, like some kind of lizard costume, maybe. It wasn't hanging on from one of the hangers, though, because there was a slight movement to it. The kind you get when someone was trying to remain still, but the body shakes a little bit. No breathing, no sound, except for the light shuffling of the costumes moving beneath its unseat feet as it stared back at me. I don't remember how I found my way out. I think I just wandered until it came to me. Whatever it was that I saw, it didn't chase me. It just stared at me. And that was the only look at it I got. I probably ran after I saw it, though, and the rest came back to me naturally. I remember my mother looking worried and briefly chasing me before seeing how scared I was. I remember crying, hugging her tight, and I remember her carrying me out to the car. Not much after that, though. The memory tapers off as most from that long ago tend to, and I think she rented a movie for us to make me feel better. I still don't know how to process that memory, honestly. It's easy to pass it off as a dream, but even now it feels too real for me to just dismiss it. It's like I saw something I shouldn't have in a way. Of course, Marty's is a normal party store just like any other, and curiosity got the best of me, and I ended up going back the next day after I'd given myself some time to collect my thoughts. The little side room was just as it had been the day before, even after I tentatively went inside. No mysterious hallways, no staring eyes, nothing. I didn't tell my mom about it either. She would have just dismissed it as a nightmare, and really, who wouldn't? I think the thing that makes me so sure on that some level it wasn't a dream was that I'd blocked it out for nearly 15 years. If it were just a bad dream, wouldn't my brain even have the instinct to suppress it? I don't know, really. I'm thinking about making an excuse to visit again in October, find a weekend that isn't so busy to see my parents for a day or two. It was, after all, October when it happened. I'm not sure what I hope to find exactly, but I can't help it. I haven't been able to stop thinking about what I saw, and I need some sort of resolution now. I don't think anything will happen, but it can't hurt to see, right? Maybe, just maybe I'll go and there'll be that big open space again. Maybe I'll see it, the figure looming in the distance, and I'm sure that if I see it, it will see me as it did when I was a child, through that old, worn out mask of its. Well, damn. I thought at first it was gonna be like a backrooms type of thing, because it read off as like it being something part of the backrooms, but then like it seeing that there's just a fucking creature there, I'm just like, nah, nope, I'm good. I mean, technically, it still could be part of the backrooms, but instead of like, in the games, it's that big, scary little tentacle creepy monster thing, that it's this reptile thing. Yeah, no, that would scare the living shit out of me, that you just like don't remember something traumatizing happening to you, and then you go into said place that traumatized you in the first place, and then just suddenly get jolted back with the memory of it happening, and you're just like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. Nope, not doing it. But yeah, no, that would be creepy. um, oh, it reminded me of a nightmare I had where I was in, what was it, elementary school. I think it was third grade. Yeah, like third grade, or second, one of those two. It was very, very like beginning of school, and I was at the library, and it had these stairs ascending to upstairs, and but we kids weren't allowed up there. But when the librarian had walked away, it was me and my older brother, and like two of his friends had wanted to see what was up there. So we walked up there, and it was like like kind of like a tiny apartment, and there was you know, just regular like furniture, but then there was this coat rack, and in between the coat rack was what looked like to be a figure of a person, a little girl. And so my brother and his friends had pushed me up it to go, scat it out. And of course I did, because I was like, oh, I'm going to be brave through this. I'm going to, be brave and, have more balls than they did. Yeah, no, the second I got close to it, it turned around and it lunged at me um, while we were trying to run downstairs. And of course I, tripped down the stairs like some fucking stupid person in horror movies, and I think she killed me, but I woke up. I woke up crying. I was very little at the time, so that scared the shit out of me. Yeah, it's interesting that I can remember every nightmare that I've had that traumatized me. I've had one about Chucky before. I've had one about Jason. I grew up on horror movies, so of course it was to be expected, but it's like, whatever. I've had some pretty dark, depressing ones that I'm not going to say, but yeah, it was a lot. But yeah, that just reminded me of it. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this one. If you're new to my channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and hit the bell so you're notified videos, which is daily. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.